You can't supervise it if you don't know it. The difference there is you don't have to be the expert in it. Maybe that's when you turn to the experts on your crew who've been doing this longer and say, hey, what do you think? But don't confuse technical expertise with leadership.
You're listening to the Blacktop Banter Podcast, the premier podcast in the asphalt industry, made for contractors with contractors.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Blacktop Banter. You're here with myself and our guest, Wally. Wally is an author of the book Construction Leadership from A to Z, 26 Words to Lead By. Wally's LinkedIn profile says Wally Adamchik, CMC, CSP, MBA, and while we're at it, I'm going to add NWA and WWE because he's a badass. I'm going to be honest with you. At Dirt World Summit, where we met, Wally crushed it. He brought his skills as a speaker and presented his knowledge as a coach, consultant, and construction industry advocate. Wally is a construction industry expert and has built a career on leading and teaching others to lead, and he joins us today on Blacktop Banter. It's so good to see you again, my friend.
It's good to be with you. I was a little jealous when you were doing the podcast in the middle of the Hyatt there at Dirt World, so I'm happy to finally make the cut.
Yeah. I was ironically, you mentioned that I was wearing the same shirt that day. I was a guest on our friend Joshua Molot's podcast, which just came out, called The Line. And it was great to be on the other side of the table. I was able to be out of pocket a little bit. I didn't ask the questions. I was asked the questions, which is great. And I always find it interesting because I never really consider myself a successful business owner. We're in a small town. We run a small business. And to be on somebody else's podcast and them ask me questions about business, I always feel like I have imposter syndrome because I'm like, I'm not even close to the guys that I look up to that are my mentors and people I'm around. But we were around a lot at Dirt World Summit. I don't know about you, but I was on like a high while we were there. I was so excited to do any type of talking there and excited to put stuff together like this where you and I are speaking afterward.
One of the coolest events I've been to. And, you know, we're not here to pump the Dirt World Summit, but, oh, by the way, it's coming again next year. But, you know, there was such a collection of like-minded folks, right? You know, you go to World of Concrete, World of Asphalt, whatever, and it's massive. Mm-hmm. And, you know, a third of people there because the boss said they had to be there. Everyone who was there was in, to speak. It's kind of like your success group, right? The people that are there want to be there. And they lean into it. And, you know, you talked about imposter syndrome. You know, welcome to life. I think we all have it to some degree. And when you join a group like, you know, you get into those peer groups. Yep. I mean, I know I go into mine at National Speakers Association, and I'm like, man, I'm a catfish in this group. I mean, well, I'm just a bottom feeder. But that's how we learn, and that's how we grow. So, you know, what we're doing here, what you're bringing to the community, it's good stuff, man, and I'm psyched to be with you.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. And to be honest with you, what I like is when we go to those and you come, you know, out of your comfort zone, you start talking to people, you realize that there's people who have went down. Yes, we're in this huge bubble of the construction industry, but there's so many paths and trajectories in there, and people have went down these different paths and trajectories to where they know a lot. And in order for you to know as much as they know, by not talking to them, you would have to walk that same path. But we have the advantage where we can make friends with people. You and I have become friends, and you can ask them direct questions, and it leaps you in forward motion to not their level of success, but farther down the line. You become so diverse in your skills and whatnot by talking to these people. And that's why I wanted to bring you on here today. You have some great specialties and uniqueness about your character trait. I loved sitting in on your session and hearing you speak. And leadership has always been, and that was a huge theme, right, when we were at Dirt World, but it's always been one of these things that I have a dichotomy about because similar to working out, similar to taking on a new sport, there's always this thing where, yes, you want to be good at it, but you know that it's going to be a lot of work and you have to develop skills and traits. So, you know, once people see that, they kind of, in my opinion, and I want you to chime in on this, it seems like they develop a fear of being a leader at some point once they get a glimpse of that. I've chalked it up to two things. There's either a fear of, oh, this is going to be a lot of work, I really don't want to mess with this, or it's just laziness. in some aspect of it, where people are like, I don't want to do the work. It's going to be a lot. Can you help us in and get some insight on that?
Yeah, you mentioned imposter syndrome earlier, and there's definitely part of that inhibits us from taking that next step in our lives, or wherever that is. But I'm going to throw another one at you. I'm going to throw guilt at you, and this: who am I to lead these 400 or 400 people? I'm just another guy. I came up through the ranks, and let's face it, this talks to a lot of our audience here today. That who am I to order them around? I'm no better than them. And no, we all put our pants on the same way, absolutely. But look, it's your name on the side of the truck, and there's certain things that you have to do to put that business. Who was your guy back in December? December, Chad Buck, was it?
Oh yeah, Chad Buck came on. Mm-hmm.
Listening to him talk, and this thing about, when he went to Doral, and he was this new guy, he had $82 in his pocket, and he's listening to these guys, and man, I'm doing it wrong. Like, he was working his butt off. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I remember when I was that guy. My wife driving me to the airport because we couldn't afford the parking on the credit card until I got reimbursed when I started the business. So this confusion that doing the work is leadership. Look, setting the example is important. And in an owner-operator scenario or a new crew leader scenario, yes, doing the work is important. But make no mistake, when you're doing, you're not leading. So, and I think it's guilt sometimes that causes people to not take that step.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I feel that same way, right? I own a small business, and I've always thought other people have better leadership qualities than I have, and I'll use my perception, right, and be like, oh, this would be a good person to put in a leadership role, take this on, and I feel all of a sudden I'm like, no, that didn't work out all that great. And I started to think, well, who am I even to be the guy that is in position? And you said it, your name's on the truck, right? Like, it has to be you. Your name is on the truck. And I think that's one of those things where maybe it's in my brain. I still feel like maybe I have a choice, right? No, I can be the leader, or I can't be, or I can just work really hard and I can hire somebody to be the leader, right? But their name isn't always, their name's not on the truck, right? So it's two different scenarios and dichotomies about that. So let's say it is somebody like me, and I'm fully candidly open. I'm still a work in progress. I hope I'm always a work in progress, and I'm always striving to be a better leader. But I never really, it's one of these things where you can't really gauge how good you are at it until you get in the trenches and start doing it. And it's a long process to where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I made a bad choice here. I failed. Isn't that entrepreneurship in a nutshell? I failed. Okay, now I need to not fail. This is how I don't fail. And you come into that with leadership too. So what are some practical first steps guys like me as a leader can do to improve in that area? I mean, you go to the gym, you start lifting the light weights first before you get to the big heavy dumbbell, right? Like, what are the first steps I can take to start moving in that direction, Wally?
Well, I think one of the first ones is don't confuse technical competence or expertise with leadership. Now, it is foundational. You have to understand the means and methods of seal coating, asphalt, etc. I mean, you can't supervise it if you don't know it. Now, the difference there is you don't have to be the expert in it, but you have to know who to call, and have to be able to look at something and go, something, I don't think that's right. And maybe that's when you turn to the experts on your crew who've been doing this longer and say, hey, what do you think? But don't confuse technical expertise with leadership. It's technical competence is foundational. Like, I understand the work. Go back to the gym. I understand that I need to lift some weights, but maybe there's better technique. So I don't have to be the expert to become a world-class bodybuilder or world-class athlete. I need somebody to help me become that person. Or somebody who is the expert to say, no, put your hand here, put your hand here. Similarly, in leadership, it's recognizing that you don't have to have all the answers, and then you have to have the humility to be able to say, I don't have all the answers.
Oh, man. Yeah, which is tough, right? Because most of the guys that I know that have built their business, that built their business from the ground up, they're pretty proud. Like, hey, man, and they had to be, right? You have to be like, I'm putting it all on my shoulders. It's on me. The buck stops here with me, right, to begin and to end. So that's a tough thing to do. And a lot of times, my goals when I first started, and I think this is a lot of times with guys, is to get the house bought, get your truck, get so you can pay your bills at night, and you can pay your materials, and you're good. Like you're in motion and the ball's rolling. But then they don't know what to do from there, right? They're like, well, I'm getting more phone calls. I have to figure out how to do more work or don't. I want to do more work, right? That's business. We want to grow. So I start hiring people. And then you realize as soon as you hire somebody, you're their leader, right? And then you're like, okay, what do I do? And if I can't be everywhere all at once and everybody can't get a hold of me all at once, I need other people to lead. And to me, that's a scary concept. That's like, to me, similarly, is like having kids. Because you're like, oh, there's people that depend on me and I have to guide them and direct them. Oh, crap. So let's say I'm in that position. That is my level. I've been this lone wolf, getting there. What do I do? What do I do once I'm faced with that issue?
Well, I think part of it is being intentional about where you go. So you go from doing, X amount of work in year 1 to 10X in year 10. And sometimes people look back, and that's, like you said, that's business. It's growth. It feels good. You see that top line getting bigger. You see the bottom line getting a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But and again, we're justifiably proud about that. But then we're hostage to the business. And
bingo.
I can't take a vacation. I can't take 2 hours off to go to my kids' fill in the blank recital, soccer game, the zoo, whatever.
Yep.
And it's that intentionality of where do I want to be? And more importantly, who do I want to be and what lifestyle do I want to have? Let's face it, small businesses like ours, to some degree, it's a lifestyle business, right? It enables me to do certain things. But, oh my God, now I've got equipment and I've got people and now I've got risk profiles and I am, in fact, responsible for those people. So now I have that burden. And look, those are all gifts because when you can create opportunity for people, look, that's the gift of leadership. When somebody else is holding that trophy up and you sit back and go, yeah, they did that. I helped along the way. And I mean, that's why we lead. Otherwise, just run your business, right? And leave it at this size. But when you get it bigger, as you note, you have to delegate, you have to empower. And let's not forget, by the way, the power of systems. When it's just you and you're controlling it, I don't need a system, I don't need a playbook. But the minute I create a second crew, third crew, fourth crew, whatever, there needs to be processes and procedures that we can replicate because we estimate based on the certainty that we're going to do this in a certain way. Then we go execute it in a certain way. So now I'm in a training mode here to teach people how to do the things that we say we're going to do consistency. And when we connect all those dots, we'll have business success. So what I just articulated was the management side of the business, but I'm a leadership guy. Well, I'll tell you what, you can be the most motivational person on the face of the earth, and if you can't get materials to a job site, it doesn't matter.
Bingo. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I'm incredibly proud of the Blacktop Banner Edition seal coating unit produced in partnership with KM International and available in both 550 and 700 gallon versions. Custom built on the same frame as their bulletproof hot boxes, I work closely with KM to design what I believe is the best seal coating unit on the market, a unit designed by a contractor for contractors. Learn more about the unit and to see a walkthrough of the entire unit by visiting kminternational.com.
If you're serious about efficiency and performance, listen up. The Craftco SuperShot 125 is not just a melter, it's a strategic pavement maintenance advantage. Quick startups, fume-free, automatic agitator shutoff, a splash-proof lid, and pumping on demand, these features are essential for any serious asphalt maintenance contractor. So don't settle for mediocrity. Elevate your game with the Craftco SuperShot line of melters by visiting craftco.com today.
In my opinion, Dynapac CC900G roller is the best roller on the market for driveway and small parking lot paving contractors. The seismic technology in these rollers is unbeatable for the smoothness and compaction they provide, and I choose the Dynapac CC900G over the little yellow roller that you're used to seeing every single time. But don't just take my word for it. Check them out in person at Pavex and World of Asphalt, or visit Dynapac.com to find a dealer near you.
Hey Blacktop Banner fans, this is Michael with Aquaphalt. Say goodbye to potholes and roadway damage without the need for large crews, heavy equipment, or toxic chemicals. Aquaphalt is the only permanent repair material for asphalt and concrete that uses water. And installation is simple. Just pour, add water, and tamp. It's that easy. An Aquaphalt repair can be open to traffic immediately and fully sealed within 24 hours. Plus, the product is backed by a 3-year warranty and made in the USA. Visit aquaphalt.com. That's AQUAPHALT.com to learn more.
In the past year, Jobber has been our CRM of choice at Wiscode, and it's made our world exponentially better efficiency-wise. The request to quote and quote to invoice process is seamless and professional. The scheduling aspect keeps us on point and the team leaders moving throughout the day from project to project, while the timesheet feature tracks the team members' hours. For our small seal coating company, it has helped build the solid foundation we can scale from. Jobber is now a sponsor of Blacktop Banter and helps bring this show to you. With this partnership, Jobber is offering an exclusive savings to BB listeners of 20% off for 6 months. To take advantage of this, find the Jobber link in the show description and get to improving your process today.
Hi contractors, it's Kyla from Wiscoat. We use Stencil Plus for all of our pavement marking stencils. Alphabet letters, numbers, directional arrows, handicap markings, you name it. We use it and we get it all from Stencil Plus. Right now, for a limited time, you can save 10% on your stencil order by using code BB10 during checkout at stencilplus.com or by calling 877-372-6055.
Contractors, you need to make it easy for potential customers to reach you. Get a custom phone number from the 800 Pavement Network and plaster it on the side of your trucks and rigs, and I guarantee you'll see increases in leads and jobs booked. Get yours by calling 1-800-728-3636.
You know what I attribute it to, and I kind of, or I guess I don't attribute it to, but I metaphorically put it this way. It's like a river, right? You all of a sudden you build this river, and the only way that you've known to keep it flowing is to just let it flow and you follow it, right? And sometimes that means trial and error, a lot of trial and error, which stinks. That's the toughest thing to have to deal with because it takes time. There's collateral damage, right? You get some erosion off the wall. But if you can figure out how to direct this and dam this thing up in certain spots, it becomes advantageous to you. And that's systems, right? I've developed the systems I developed. I didn't realize that I was developing systems. I was trying to stop the bleeding. I was trying to stop the hurt. And I was like, this is the only thing I can see to do it. And it's like kind of like being in the field. I'm not a doctor. You know, if you were in the military, which we, hopefully we get to a little bit later. I'm not a doctor, but I know how to at least put pressure on and stop some bleeding until I can get you to a doctor that can fix you up really well, right? But it feels like that's what you do until you somehow can get the information to do it really well. How do we do that, Wally? Is it mentorship? Is it coaching? Is it mastermind groups? Is it reading? Is it events that we go to? Where do we go when that starts to happen?
Well, I think it's all of the above, but let's not confuse effort with results. I mean, we all know professional conference attenders who do nothing. They got all the badges, but they have no return. So here's a little bit of default. I'm a capitalist, and I think return on investment matters. I want your listeners today to get something out of their time with us that has value to them. So whether you read a book, join a peer group, attend a conference, whatever it is, what do you do with that information? And I think, again, sometimes, we take on too much of that stuff.
Yeah.
Look, I joke, you can only give up drinking, smoking, and gambling. You can't do it all at once, right? What are those one or two things that you're going to work on in 2024? Whether it's a systems perspective or developing that next crew lead, whatever it is. Look, we all know that change is hard. We also know that change is mandatory.
Bingo.
So what are those one or two things that would, if you could do, you'd be able to look back a year from now and say, something, that was worth it. That was worth my time to wrestle that thing, and beat it into the ground. And what happens is we get it right for about 30, 60, 90 days, and then we go, woo, got that. No, you need to get it right for like 270 days.
Yeah.
So it's in your DNA. You talk about going to the gym. Like, I don't have to put it on my calendar that I'm going to the gym. I know that I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
Now, it may be at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever it's going to be, but I know I'm going to get to the gym today. It's not even on my calendar. That's what we talk about, getting it into the DNA. I know we can debate whether it's having any impact on this body, but that's a separate, but it's in my DNA. So what are those one or two things that your listeners want to incorporate? And like I said, peer groups too, are a phenomenal way to, as you said earlier, listen to somebody who's been down the path and maybe even to guide you and hold you accountable and say, hey, Wally, you said you were going to work on this when we were together and wherever. How's it going with that? That account, because as an owner, who are you accountable to? Nobody really, if you don't do what you say you're going to do. Now, you lose credibility with your people if that's the case. But as an owner, who do we turn to? Yeah, books, conventions, etc. But I'm a fan of peer groups.
Yeah, me too. And that's why I started the success group, right? The Blacktop Banner Success Group. It was just like, I wanted to improve, and I wanted to be around people that wanted to improve. I didn't care where they were in their walk. I just wanted them to be there. You talk about, going to the events, reading books, getting into a peer group, doing whatever. You're investing time, and time is a commodity that we have, right? You wouldn't buy a huge piece of equipment and let it sit in the corner and hope that it does the work for you, right? So for me, what I've been able to observe is we've had guys who have consumed the same amount of content, went to the same amount of events, and I watched guys that have implemented what they have learned to attack those areas you just talked about, and watch them go from zero, starting their business last year, January, to a 6-figure business in 12 months, right? Mm-hmm. Something they never thought possible. And I've watched the same men who have started with zero or did a little bit, and they're still like, I'm just trying to get my legs under me, trying to figure it out. And there's a term we use around called success zombies, where guys consume, and they never do anything with it, right? Yeah. I hope that they don't fall victim to that. But as I was saying, you're investing. It's the same thing as going and buying a piece of equipment. If you don't put it to work, it's not going to do anything for you. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think I'm a pretty good seal coater, but there's guys who are naturally better than I am. Same thing with line striping. I think I'm a pretty good line striper, but there's guys I know that have traits that make them even better. What are some of the traits that stand out to you when you think of great leaders? What do these guys do that separate them, or females do, that separates them from the guys that want to do it and just can't figure it out?
Well, you have to start with self-awareness, which means you have the maturity maybe to look inside and say, something, I'm not good at this, but I'm good at that. Or, man, when he pings, I pong, when he does that, I react bad. Why is that? Is that a mama's house story, whatever it is? So it's that self-awareness of who you are and why you are. And there's a wonderful book out called True North. And there's a field guide with it. And it's called the True North Field Guide, or Field Book for emerging leaders. And it takes you through, it's a workbook, a lot of white space. And you're trying to figure out why you are the way you are. And once you understand why you are the way you are, then I can put myself in situations to be more effective and more successful. So it's understanding ourselves, so that now when I'm standing across from you and you're yelling at me, I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't react negatively, because that's how my father treated me. And when I sitting across from you and you're the better line striper than I am, I have that maturity to say, hey, how do you do that? Right? I would, here's one for you. What's your question to answer quotient? Are you answering more or asking more? Leaders ask more questions.
Yeah, that's a great determiner too, because I didn't used to be that way, right? When I was young, building the business up, I had the answers to everything because we're going, we're going boom. And then once I hit a roadblock, I was like, oh, I need to figure out how to get around it. And then once I got around that roadblock, I looked up and there were a lot, and I realized, holy crap, this is going to slow me down if I don't start asking questions, which is probably why we're on the podcast right now, is because I adapted that trait. It became a habit because I knew that if I did that, I would get answers to help progress me and live an easier life. That's what we all want anyways, right? We want to sleep better, live a more joyful, fulfilling, happier life. And if you're going to pick to be in business for yourself, unless you were raised in it and you have a bountiful resource close to you, you're going to have to go somewhere. You're going to have to ask for insight if you're going to want to keep growing and growing at a pace that you're happy with, and set your goals and try to hit your goals. So those are all really good traits of people that stand out. I think the best one was the guys that ask the questions. So I kind of want to ask you about that. That's experience speaking. Those are observations that you've made. What would be a great piece of advice that you would have that you've experienced from your life that you would give to the listeners and be like, hey guys, this is something that's an overarching fundamental thing from life that I've experienced and that I would like to share with you to hopefully help you improve in that regard.
Wow.
Big loaded question, by the way.
Yeah, we can go to drinking too much and all sorts of things like that. I would say it's focus. And what do you say no to? And I heard this once, and this was so important for me when I started the business, because I was on the Notre Dame Alumni Board and the Marine Corps Executive Association. I was saying yes to everything because, business owners are marketers, right? Oh my God, right? And then, but I heard this phrase along the way, and it said, when you say yes, you say no. When I say yes to being on this podcast with you, I've said no to everything else. When I say yes to being at Dirt World Summit, I say no to everything else. Now, those are yeses that I have no problem saying yes to. When I say yes to going to the holiday party at my neighbor's that I really don't want to go to in the first place, I've said no to maybe just sitting home on the couch by myself, or maybe going out with my kids, or maybe doing my financials. I don't know. So what is your focus? And the way, like I said, is that what do you say no to? And that's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, because that enables you to really focus on the things that are important to you. And look, for us, it's going to be the business. It's going to be our family. It's going to be our fitness. It could be faith, right? Depending on people, right? But what are the things that matter to you? Because that's what brings joy and fulfillment.
Dang, man. That's a good one. All right. I'm writing that one down. Choice. It's choice, right?
Every day we make choices. Look, I love what I do. And, in Q1, I'll be traveling, 5 days a week for, every week. And I'm going, oh my God, you're an idiot. Why have you done this to yourself? Because I love what I do, but I also know come, May, June, July, construction companies don't want me to show up. So part of it is get it when I can get it. But part of it is, man, I make the choice to be in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in January. And when I'm there, I love it. But it's a very conscious, very intentional decision of what I'm saying yes to. Let's face it.
Go ahead.
Hey, every single one of us on this call has said yes to a job that they knew they shouldn't have said yes to. That homeowner or that developer, and like, I knew better, right? It's having the courage to say no when early in our business we were fear driven and say we can't say no to revenue, but it's the job we say no to that is probably the best job we got or didn't get.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. We're doing it here at Blacktop Banner, right? We love the fact that we create a brand and an influence that large companies want to partner with, right? Like it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. But we also know through experiences that some of those clients aren't ones that we want to work with, right? Essentially, like that feeling you get when you're in the construction business and you talk to somebody who's a property manager or a property owner, and you have that feeling because you've done it before. You remember the experience. It wasn't good. And you're like, I know I shouldn't say yes to this. Right. We're experiencing it here. There's that clients we work with, and I'm using my gut from the industry that I built my businesses in to be like, hey guys, I don't like this. Like, it don't feel right. And I can see on their face, they're like, what do you mean? This is going to be great revenue. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but it's going to eliminate the opportunity for us to get revenue or opportunities that we really are going to enjoy. And there's a dichotomy there, but it's really no choice if you can trust your gut and you can make it happen, which, what did you say earlier? Business owners are marketers. We're going to have to go market ourselves and get more sales, I think, right, when it comes around.
At some point.
Wally, you mentioned that you're going to be traveling all over, going to Saskatchewan, doing whatever here, coming up Q1. Are you going to be at any of the events and conferences coming up? Where can we see you? At any of those events, or where can we find you on social media? Because I love your LinkedIn page. Well, that's where I love to follow.
LinkedIn's the place to be, and it's my website is constructionleadership.com, but that's just a website. I post 5 days a week on LinkedIn, maybe 6. Wally Adamchik, and I know you've got people listening to me go, I don't do social media. You should. If you own a business, you should be marketing on social media, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Mm-hmm. But there are some content creators on LinkedIn, and not only on LinkedIn, obviously, but that are it's an MBA in leadership, in paving, in construction, and AI, whatever it is. There is. Yes. So follow me on LinkedIn, and there'll be some funny stuff and some heavy hardcore content stuff, but it'll be thought provoking. That's the best place. So I invite folks to follow me on LinkedIn, Wally Adamchik on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and you're consistent, right? Like that's what to me, when it comes to that game, great content is fantastic, and it can leave something in your brain that you recall later. But similar to brand awareness, if you post anything on social media, you are marketing essentially, because your personal brand is coming through to it. And when you're consistent and the message is consistent and the quality is consistent, it resonates and it becomes second nature. Like I said, I loved hearing you speak, but to be honest with you, your LinkedIn is what I really love to enjoy. And yes, you can go on Amazon and grab your book, and I would read it, but also I'm going to come back to LinkedIn. That's where I get my feed from. That's where I love to see what you do and what you post about. Any events.
Let's go back to process. I was writing posts a minute ago for late February, and we're recording this in December, right? So I'm always 2 months ahead, and that's about process, because you can't create and generate. So, I think this will go up in the spring for you guys. So, convention season is over at that point. So, looking towards the fall, Dirt World Summit. Look, you and I were there in Houston last year, and in San Antonio coming up this year. Look, I do not endorse anything I don't feel strongly about, whether it's being, the honor to be on this call or Dirt World Summit. This is a community, and it really is. And man, what has social media done for us? It's created this community of like-minded professionals, and we look around and go, man, I'm not doing this alone. So I would tell folks that hopefully I'll see them at Dirt World Summit. And people go, well, I don't do dirt. Yeah, you do big machines in a construction environment. You should come.
Yeah. What are you building a building on? It starts with dirt, right?
Exactly. And where's that road, that driveway on? Yeah, it's on top of dirt. And most fundamentally, it's with people, and that's the leadership conversation.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest with you. We all return to the dirt one day, so you might as well get to know more about it, because you're going to be there for a while. At least your body is anyway.
There's a leadership lesson right there about empathy too, about we all have more in common than we realize, And when we seek to unite rather than divide, when we align around our corporate values and say, hey, this is who we want to be, Chick-fil-A, known for their values. Not everybody buys into that. That's okay. But if people buy into them, now we can align to those and create a better organization. So values are not touchy-feely. This is what our organizations are all about.
Yeah, the more I was telling somebody about this while I was on vacation. I just got back, so it's fresh in my brain. But we were talking about a guy was from West Virginia, and we were in the hot tub, and he was like, "I can't help it. I'm a talker." He's like, I don't care what color you are, what you look like, where you're from, whatever. He's like, if I'm by you, I have to talk to you. That's how I get to know people. That's what I love. He said, you know what I found out? Everybody who looks different than me, once we get talking, I realize they're a lot like me. He said, the more we get talking, we all want the same thing, right? And I think that it's a beautiful thing because people are so reactive on social media, right, to a lot of these posts. That's what LinkedIn is so fantastic about. The culture there is amazing, right, with people who are positive. But if I post something to Facebook or I post something to Instagram, there's immediately people who take a stance in counter to that, right, versus, hey, man, we're all trying to achieve the same thing here, right? And nothing negative was implied. We want you to do good. We want people to be happy, which I hope, people get insight and information and it adds to their life. And they didn't waste time with us here today, which I don't imagine they will. We're going to have some great bits come out from this. And you can catch us both. I imagine I'm going to be back at Dirt World, which I'm so excited for. The guys will have me there. But I really wanted to thank you for coming on here today, Wally, and sharing your insight and your expertise into these areas. People go on LinkedIn, find Wally. Really, really appreciate it, Wally.
Stoked to be with you. And, if people track me down on LinkedIn, email, whatever, send me questions. Love answering them.
Perfect. I appreciate it. All right. Well, of course, if you need more information on the group that we mentioned about here at Blacktop Banter, the Success Group, feel free. You can go on to blacktopbanter.com/BBSG, and you'll get more information on what that looks like, what's included. There's a few calls, Zoom calls each month where we go over different topics and have guests. There's also a 24/7 chat group, as well as a Google Drive, which will allow you to get PDFs and information and all types of things you can adapt to your business and information in those PDFs as well to help you. Also, if you're going to go to blacktopbanter.com, our newsletter sign up is right there on the front page. So when you get there, sign up. It's full of articles written by contractors for contractors, and you're going to have some insight from some of our sponsors as well there. We're really excited to bring that to you brand new in 2024. It's called Between the Lines. So sign up for that. As always, I would love for you to check out Mission Impact. Mission Impact is in Guatemala. We do things like build fuel-efficient stoves for families who can't afford heating or stoves or just don't have the knowledge about it. We bring clean water to different parts of villages in Guatemala, and we build custom wheelchairs for children or adults who can't get around on the rugged terrain there. Very excited for you to check that out. That's at missionimpact.com. As always, you can find us anywhere on social media at Blacktop Banter. So, for myself and for Wally, this is Blacktop Banter, where we speak asphalt. Peace. Hey everybody, Marvin here from Blacktop Banter, and if you enjoy the podcast and what we've been bringing to the industry, you can support us through a one-time or recurring donation at blacktopbanter.com. There we have a support tab. You click that and choose your path from there. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do us a favor and leave a review there for us as well. As always, we speak asphalt, and thanks for your support. This episode of Blacktop Banter is brought to you by Crafco, the world's leading manufacturer of packaged pavement preservation materials and equipment for the asphalt industry. Learn more at crafco.com.